Ancient demon Bailuo had completed his first devouring and fused with the remnant soul from the flame demon province, reaching an incredibly high level. No longer needing to form a shape using Wang Lin's blood, he could now leave on his own. In the heavenly demon capital, within the dragon pool, Wang Lin sat cross-legged, his eyes tightly shut, his expression blank. When he had touched that hand bone earlier, he had been immersed in a strange space. After Bailuo swallowed the remnant soul, using his divine abilities, he had brought Wang Lin's physical body back and placed it here. Months passed. On this day, Wang Lin slowly opened his eyes. The instant his eyes fluttered open, a flash of sharp light flickered within them. His aura had drastically changed from before his journey to the Flame Demon Province. Now, he resembled an ordinary scholar, seemingly devoid of any celestial power flowing through him, appearing quite mundane. But there was an air of freshness around him, a sense of transcendence that made him stand apart. Opening his eyes, Wang Lin let out a long breath of stale air. Our ancient demon bloodline has possessed a unique divine ability since the dawn of time. With this ability, we can comprehend the heavens and create spells on our own. This power can also be applied to others, but aside from our bloodline, all other life forms can only experience this once in their lifetime. Wang Lin remained silent. He closed his eyes again, and the various illusions of his fusion with the gray-robed figure in that strange space flooded his mind. It now felt like a dream, leaving behind lingering unease. Aside from you, I have passed my inheritance to two other cultivators. Both of them grasped the changes of the next level and even gained new insights into their own techniques. Especially the second cultivator, whose talent is among the highest I've seen. He even created a divine ability of his own during my inheritance. The ancient demon's voice held a nostalgic tone. His name is Sun Yun. I wonder if you've heard of him. Sun Yun. Wang Lin opened his eyes and remained silent for a while. Then he said, Ancient Demon Senior, our agreement still has one last part to fulfill. At that moment, a violent demonic wind suddenly rose within the dragon pool, forming a green vortex. It swept forward and stopped in front of Wang Lin. The vortex dissipated, revealing a young man with an extremely strange appearance. The most striking feature of this youth were his eyes. A green demonic light flickered within them, making him appear mysterious and unfathomable. After he appeared, he glanced at Wang Lin and smiled, saying, I haven't forgotten the promise I made to you. During these few months, while you were in your meditation, I have used my divine abilities to locate the position of the divine consciousness within the tower. As the youth spoke, he casually waved his right hand. A brilliant, sparkling light passed through his palm and transformed into an image. The image showed an abyss. From above, it resembled a massive crack across the ground, with black mist occasionally spewing from it. The intense shockwaves even made the image tremble. This place, as you cultivators call it, is the Tidal Abyss. Your friend's aura is here. However, there are 6 entrances to the Tidal Abyss. Go to the Water Demon County. The entrance there is the closest to where your friend is. Wang Lin studied the image for a moment before speaking. What exactly is the Tidal Abyss? The youth hesitated slightly before responding. In the starry sky, there are places where spatial collapses occur repeatedly. Over time, these collapses form a passage leading to an unknown destination. This passage is filled with an unimaginable gravitational force. The Tidal Abyss is one such place. Ancient Demon Bailuo didn't add anything further, and Wang Lin didn't ask any more questions. He could feel that the other was withholding a great deal, but there was no point in asking if the other didn't wish to speak. Since there are 6 entrances, does that mean there is only one exit? Wang Lin asked, his expression calm as he spoke slowly. The youth smiled faintly. His smile was somewhat eerie. He said, there is only one exit, and it's located within the Flame Demon Province. He then reached out to grab the sparkling image in front of him. The image shattered, but the light gathered into a crystal the size of a fingertip. With a flick of his hand, he sent it flying towards Wang Lin. Take this. Merge your divine sense with it, and you can use my vision to observe everything within the Tidal Abyss. This is a gift I give you after we fulfill our agreement. Wang Lin caught the crystal and cupped his fist in gratitude, saying, Thank you, Ancient Demon Senior. The youth shook his head with a smile, saying, It's I who should thank you. Go now. I need to enter seclusion for a while. Wang Lin stood up, took a step forward, and in an instant, vanished without a trace, leaving the dragon pool. The youth stared at the spot where Wang Lin had disappeared, his eyes flickering with a strange light. I only need 100 years to completely merge the remaining 7 demons. By then, I, the ancient demon Bailuo, will be reborn. The ancient demon Tagia, you took the credit for the battle back then, but after 100 years, I will see how much you've truly recovered. In this little one here, there is the faint trace of an ancient god's aura in his mind. Though it's weak, it's incredibly pure. For my ancient demon clan and the ancient demons, this is an immense tonic. However, the purer this aura, the more I hesitate to consume it. The young man shuddered at the thought of that trace of aura. An ancient god. That's a tribe that gained most of the ancient god's power through separation. The aura within this little one is incredibly strong. The ancient god whose aura is left within this body is at least 8 stars, and it's very likely to have reached 9 stars. A 9-star ancient god, even if I joined forces with the ancient demon, might not be able to win. If he wanted to kill me, it would be too easy for him. What's more important is that this aura contains a hidden will, which sends a shiver through me whenever I try to touch it. This feeling, it's something only a royal bloodline can possess. It's through this trace of aura that I can shape his blood without worrying about collapsing his mind. When I first encountered him, I didn't tell him the truth. Even if he really carries the aura of an ancient god, without that trace of royal will, it would be impossible for me to manifest. The reason the ancient demon Tagia and I have survived until now is because of the ancient gods. If I were to swallow the aura he left within this cultivator's body, it would certainly set up a future disaster for myself. However, if I can resist this temptation, I wonder if the ancient demon Tagia can do the same. The Tidal Abyss is an extremely mysterious place within the land of demonic spirits. This is the source of the outer tides, where countless magical artifacts, crystal stones, and spirit beasts have been sucked in over the years, only to be dragged into the abyss. At this moment, deep within the Tidal Abyss, in a large area of black mist, there is a vast, 100-foot wide open space where several people are sitting cross-legged. One of them is a middle-aged man, his appearance handsome, but with a hint of venomous cruelty that gives him the aura of a ruthless hero. He sits in the center, his face cold as dense death energy swirls around his body. In his right hand, he holds a strangely shaped skull, continuously stroking it. His eyes, when they open and close, exude a dark, oppressive gaze that causes anyone who looks at them to feel a tremor in their soul. Beside him, 4 others are sitting cross-legged, all dressed in blue robes with large swords on their backs. Their faces also carry an expression of grimness. At this moment, the black mist in the distance suddenly churns, and a figure swiftly flies over, stopping in front of the group. This person, also dressed in blue robes with a large sword on his back, has a bitter expression as he says, "Predecessor Greedy Wolf, the beast horde ahead still hasn't dispersed." In fact, there are even more of them now. The middle-aged man is none other than Greedy Wolf. He snorts coldly and says, "I underestimated this place. These demon beasts are all drawn here from the starry sky and have been cultivated by the strange forces here. I expected some of them to become powerful. Predecessor Greedy Wolf, there are far too many of these beasts, and they are extremely ferocious. They should be quite famous for their ferocity, but after thinking about it for a long time, I still can't recall what kind of beasts they are." The disciple of the great Luo sword sect, who had been silent up until now, spoke in a deep voice. The position he sits in is quite strategic, as if all the disciples of the great Luo sword sect are centered around him. Greedy Wolf glances at him and knows that this person is highly respected among the disciples of the great Luo sword sect, for he is their eldest senior brother, the dragon of the 12 earthly branches. The dragon is a beloved disciple of sword venerable Ling Tianho, with a deep mind and concealed cultivation. His apparent level is at the late infant metamorphosis stage, but in reality, he has reached the early stage of the nascent soul. Among the 12 sword prodigies, his cultivation isn't the highest, but even Chonyo, whose cultivation is hidden at the mid-nascent soul stage, shows great respect for him. Hearing the dragon's words, Greedy Wolf pondered for a moment and said, "These beasts look strange. I've never seen them before. The starry sky is vast, and under the way of heaven, it's impossible for a cultivator to know every living being. Especially since these beasts are obviously drawn here by the tide that happens once every 5,000 years, they have probably been here for a very long time. It's not surprising that we don't recognize them." The dragon remained silent, and everyone fell into quiet thought. Sharp, shrill screeches echoed from afar, and at the edge of the black mist, a group of demon beasts, several feet in size, with jet-black fur and sharp mandibles, flapped their wings in unison, completely surrounding the exit. Their reddish eyes gleamed with a chilling light, and their long mandibles sent a shiver down anyone's spine just by looking at them. If Wang Lin were to see this beast, he would immediately recognize it as the mosquito beast. However, its body is not the typical purple-gold color. Xun'er's face showed a hint of bitterness. Among the 12 sword prodigies, apart from the deceased Mo Yang and the ones left outside, Zishu, and the pig of the 12 earthly branches, the remaining 9 all followed the greedy wolf to this tidal abyss. The greedy wolf had mentioned that, after careful observation, this place was the greatest treasure trove in the entire land of demonic spirits. In his words, all the disciples of the great Luo sword sect, except for Xun'er, were tempted by the allure of the treasures. They had witnessed with their own eyes countless magical artifacts and strange objects being sucked into the land of demonic spirits by the tidal currents of the East Sea. It could be said that the purpose of their entry here was not only to obtain the ancient demon inheritance, but also to search for those magical treasures and strange items. Xun'er, ever calm, felt uneasy about the situation. Though he knew something was off, he couldn't think of a reason to refuse. However, he had devised a plan. He didn't let all his disciples stay together. Instead, he had them split into 3 groups, with Chonyo leading one group through another direction, keeping in contact while leaving Zishu and the pig of the 12 earthly branches outside. Upon entering the tidal abyss, their journey had been smooth at first. But everything changed when the greedy wolf mysteriously pulled something from a cave. They were suddenly ambushed by a strange group of demon beasts and trapped here, unable to leave. This imprisonment lasted nearly 100 years. 100 years may sound long, but for them, it passed in the blink of an eye. Trapped in this abyss without day or night, surrounded by black mist, any attempt to venture outside was met with attacks from the endless swarm of demon beasts. Shidishin Ho died during a forced assault. Though he used his master's sword chi before his death, killing some demon beasts, the sheer number of beasts outside was overwhelming. Xun'er knew that even if they gathered all their sword chi, they would not be able to escape. We can't go on like this. Xun'er took a deep breath, stood up, and looked at the greedy wolf. His actions immediately caused the other 4 disciples of the great Luo sword sect to rise, surrounding the greedy wolf. The greedy wolf's expression remained unchanged, always grim. He let out a raspy laugh. What is this, my dear nephews? Senior greedy wolf, I would like to know what you found in that cave. Xun'er said in a deep voice. A trace of mockery flashed in the greedy wolf's eyes. You want to know? He said, then slapped his storage pouch, and an oval-shaped egg appeared in his hand. The egg exuded no life force but was shrouded in death energy. Xun'er glanced at the egg. Over the course of their journey, he had learned a bit about the greedy wolf. This man's cultivation was clearly related to death energy, and he used it to refine his abilities, which was understandable. However, whether this was truly the item he had discovered was another matter. Little brat, I'll spare you this time for your master Ling Tianho's sake. If there's a next time, don't blame me for being merciless. Humph, when I was cultivating, you weren't even born yet. Anyone who dares to speak to me like this won't survive. A cold glint flashed in the greedy wolf's eyes. His voice, though calm, sounded like a thunderclap to the other disciples of the great Luo sword sect. Except for Xun'er, all the others instinctively took a step back. Xun'er lowered his head, a flash of killing intent in his eyes. He respectfully said, Senior, please forgive us. I was just anxious, as we have been trapped here for nearly 100 years. What's the rush? Your master will surely come here in another 100 years, and he will save you all then. The greedy wolf closed his eyes and spoke slowly. Xun'er sat cross-legged and fell silent. He had long suspected that the greedy wolf was up to something. The man seemed to want to remain here, not in any rush to leave. There must be a reason behind this. Meanwhile, as the disciples of the great Luo sword sect and the greedy wolf were at odds, Wang Lin was flying toward the tidal exit of the Flame Demon Province with great speed. He had already heard about the tidal abyss from Yao Shishue. According to Yao Shishue, the command token that made Tian Yunzi and others green with envy was also inside the tidal abyss. Because of this, Wang Lin had a bold guess in his mind. The greedy wolf and the disciples of the great Luo sword sect, who mysteriously disappeared 100 years ago, were likely headed to the tidal abyss as well. If they had emerged by now, that would be fine. But if they had not, then Wang Lin prepared to make special arrangements at the only exit in the Flame Demon Province, just in case. With his great teleportation technique, Wang Lin moved swiftly toward the tidal exit left by the crystal. As he flew, his mind involuntarily drifted to the strange scene of merging with the gray figure in the ancient demon inheritance space. The gray figure had used the slaughter immortal art. The moment Wang Lin merged with it, he experienced a moment of epiphany, feeling as though his slaughter chi, once at 1,000,000, suddenly surged to 10 million. However, at the very moment when the slaughter chi reached tens of millions, the seal of life that formed from it unexpectedly fused together, creating a bizarre imprint. This imprint, carrying the essence of millions of slaughters, immediately broke free from Wang Lin's control the instant it appeared, directly pressing itself onto his forehead, between his brows. The imprint pierced through his body, even embedding itself deep within his primordial spirit. It triggered a fusion with the surrounding heaven and earth's primordial chi, and in a strange transformation, immediately severed the connection between Wang Lin's primordial spirit and his physical body. In the next 3 breaths, his primordial spirit melted away, completely absorbed by the imprint. Then, his life force transformed into a grayish gas, which was similarly absorbed by the imprint. Wang Lin, from a third-person perspective, witnessed and personally experienced everything. This scene made his eyes flash with intense coldness and overwhelming killing intent. He saw his physical body and primordial spirit, everything he was, being absorbed by the imprint, which had been formed from the millions of slaughter chi. Then, the imprint broke free from his body, like a parasitic insect that had absorbed all the nutrients from its host before bursting out. The imprint, dripping with a bloody scent, slowly flew out and, with a loud bang, transformed into a wave of slaughter chi. This was the true slaughter chi. Wang Lin's mind jolted. Even though some time had passed, and even though he was flying at this moment, recalling that scene still sent a chill down his spine. He let out a deep breath, his eyes flashing with cold light and killing intent, as if it were about to explode, but he immediately suppressed it, hiding it deep within. As for the strange space he had experienced, Wang Lin could not discern its truth. However, based on his understanding of the Slaughter Immortal art, he vaguely felt that this scene was no illusion. In that strange realization, Wang Lin recalled his state at the time. It was as if time had compressed itself, allowing him to immediately push a divine ability to perfection and deepen his understanding. For those with exceptional talent, it was even possible to create their own unique divine abilities in such a state. By repeatedly refining and evolving it, they could eventually perfect their skills to a new level. Sun Yun was one such person. Although Wang Lin's aptitude had undergone significant changes over the past 800 years, especially with the transformation of his immortal body, he was still far inferior to a genius like Sun Yun, who even the ancient demons found astonishing. He could not create his own divine abilities, but relying on his sharpness and observation, he managed to awaken from the strange space in the shortest time possible. With a decisiveness that even Sun Yun could not match, he directly fused with the fastest disappearing gray figure. It was known that Sun Yun, back in the day, only awakened after most of the illusions had dissipated. Wang Lin's decisiveness was unparalleled. Even Tian Yunzi would never have imagined that Wang Lin could comprehend the mysteries of the Slaughter Immortal art through the ancient demon's inheritance. Tian Yunzi, I once said, if you do not betray me, I, Wang, will never betray you. Wang Lin's voice was cold, like the wind from the 9 netherworlds, echoing through the air. The Slaughter Immortal art is indeed astonishing, but Tian Yunzi, you are too ruthless. Fortunately, my understanding is limited. At most, I can reach 1,000,000, but had my comprehension gone deeper and reached tens of millions of slaughter chi, I fear I would have already turned into an imprint, a true slaughter chi, absorbed by you. Wang Lin exhaled deeply as he flew. Back then, the gray-clad Tian Yunzi said that because of my understanding of the cycle of life and death, he taught me the Slaughter Immortal art. I never thought much about it back then. Now, connecting the events, I suspect that when I underwent the divine transformation on Vermilion Bird Star hundreds of years ago, Tian Yunzi must have seen my comprehension of the cycle of life and death, which led him to take me as his disciple. Wang Lin closed his eyes and, when he opened them again, clarity filled his gaze. With a shift of his body, his figure disappeared. I've been a bit obsessive about this. I can't come to a conclusion right now. Tian Yunzi has indeed shown me kindness. Choosing the Slaughter Immortal art was my own decision, though he may have influenced me. I must proceed with caution. Tian Yunzi's cultivation is too high, and if I lack the ability to resist him, I cannot let him know I understand all of this. However, the Slaughter Immortal art. I must study it thoroughly and see if I can find a way to break it. At the exit of the tidal abyss outside the Fire Demon province, Wang Lin had stayed for several days. He didn't set up powerful formations or seals but instead took a reverse approach, leaving behind simple yet concealed restrictions. These restrictions lacked offensive power but could track movements. If someone were to come out, unless they had extraordinary cultivation, a slight mistake would leave behind a mark, which would allow Wang Lin to notice. After completing this, Wang Lin cast aside all distractions and hurried toward the Water Demon Province, intending to enter through its entrance. He would then activate his divine sense and search for Zhou. Zhou had once shown him kindness, and Wang Lin had to save him. Besides rescuing Elder Zhou, there's also the Colossal Fortune. Wang Lin's eyes flashed as he shifted through space. He clearly remembered seeing the Colossal Fortune in the Tidal Abyss near the East Sea many years ago. Several days later, in the western part of Water Demon Province, there was a place known as the Sea of Clouds. This area was often shrouded in mist, and deep within the Sea of Clouds, there was an underground fissure stretching for countless miles. This was one of the passages to the Tidal Abyss. For cultivators, a man and a woman stood outside the Sea of Clouds, gazing inward. The woman wore a white robe that fit her slender form. Though it wasn't tight, it was still accentuated in a way that was quite captivating. Cultivators were adept at maintaining their youthful appearance, and some with profound cultivation could even extend their lifespan. To the outside observer, it was difficult to determine their actual age. Beside this woman stood another woman, who appeared rather ordinary. She had long hair cascading over her shoulders, looking delicate and fragile, as though she might be swept away by the wind at any moment. She wore a pink robe, which made her complexion seem somewhat pale. Compared to the stunning beauty of the other woman, she lacked the same striking allure, but there was an added sense of sympathy when one looked at her. Junior sisters, this is the Sea of Clouds and Water Demon Province. I stumbled upon it years ago, and became so enchanted by it that I couldn't bear to leave. Although I've never been to the immortal realm, I can say without a doubt that this Sea of Clouds is superior to it. Murong, what do you think? The young man in a red robe spoke with a calm voice. This young man was handsome, exuding a sense of arrogance as if he were a child of destiny. Not bad, came the cold reply from another man standing nearby. He was dressed in black, his expression stern. After speaking, he closed his eyes and fell silent. The red-robed young man smiled faintly, having grown used to the brevity of the other's speech. Senior brother Du, you must not have stayed here just for the mist. The woman with a moon-like beauty smiled lightly, her lips curling. To be honest, junior sister Zhao, I discovered a fissure in the Sea of Clouds, and I suspect it leads to the Tidal Abyss, the red-robed young man explained with a grin. Zhao, the woman with the striking beauty, looked at him with glistening eyes, about to speak when, suddenly, the black-robed young man beside her opened his eyes wide and fixed his gaze on the distance. Very strong. The black-robed youth's voice was low but sharp. In the distance, a streak of light sliced through the sky, transforming him midair into a young man in white robes. His appearance was ordinary, with no particularly outstanding features. He stood in the air, ignoring the four below, instead casting a cold glance at the mist, stepping forward. It's him. The red-robed youth froze for a moment upon recognizing the figure, his eyes flashing with surprise. He quickly assessed the other's cultivation level. It had already reached the realm of the Ascendant. His thoughts churned in an instant, and a smile spread across his face as he called out, "Junior brother Wang, please wait." The young man in white was Wang Lin. He paused, turning to glance at the group. The first person he looked at wasn't either of the two women, nor the red-robed youth, but the black-robed man. This person can detect me from 1,000 miles away. His cultivation isn't weak. Judging by the immortal yuan within him, you should be at the early stages of the Ascendant realm. Wang Lin's gaze was indifferent as he scanned the group, finally settling on the red-robed youth. He seemed familiar. He was a disciple of Tian Yunzi of the Crimson lineage. Among the four, except for the black-robed man, the others were all at the perfect late infant metamorphosis stage. However, the crimson-robed youth seemed to have one foot already in the Ascendant realm. If he so desired, he could reach that stage at any time. It seemed he was just waiting for the right moment, perhaps due to the dangerous threshold of the Taoist Ascendant's life and death transition. "Junior brother Wang, I'm Du Jian," the red-robed youth said with a smile. He quickly realized that Wang Lin probably didn't know his name. "Greetings, senior brother Du," Wang Lin returned with a clasped fist. Du Jian smiled and gestured toward the black-robed man. "This is Morongjua of the Mo sect, and these two are my fellow disciples from the Floating Clouds sect." Morongjua, dressed in black, scrutinized Wang Lin for a moment before clasping his fist and introducing himself. "Greetings, Taoist Wang. I am Morongjua, the fourth-generation disciple of the Mo sect." At his words, Du Jian and the two women looked surprised. On their journey, they had never heard Morongjua speak more than 5 words at a time. His reserved nature had become so ingrained that they could hardly imagine him speaking in such a way. Even when encountering fellow cultivators at the mid-stage of Ascendant, Morongjua had never said more than a few words. Moreover, Morongjua had placed particular emphasis on introducing himself. The three of them, after cultivating for so many years, understood the unspoken respect in those simple words. Zhao Yishuan, the woman with the stunning beauty, smiled gently at Wang Lin and said, "Junior brother Wang, I'm Zhao Yishuan, and this is my junior sister, Su Fei." Su Fei. The name struck a chord in Wang Lin's memory. He couldn't help but glance at the delicate woman, who gave a slight bow and softly said, "Greetings, senior brother Wang." Du Jian shot Wang Lin a meaningful glance and smiled. "Could it be that you know junior sister Su?" Wang Lin shook his head, replying, "No, I don't. It's just that her name is the same as a junior disciple I once knew when I was younger." Du Jian smiled faintly, avoiding the topic, and said, "Junior brother Wang, have you come here for the Tidal Abyss?" He did not try to hide his intentions or use indirect questions, but went straight to the point. Wang Lin's expression remained calm, and he nodded, saying, "Exactly." Du Jian's gaze sharpened as he said, "Junior brother Wang, the Tidal Abyss is filled with numerous dangers. Even if you possess the strength of the Ascendant stage, it will be difficult to enter. Our goal is also the Tidal Abyss. Why don't we team up? It would be helpful to look out for each other." Wang Lin paused for a moment. He was aware of the dangers in the Tidal Abyss. Before coming here, he had used the crystals given to him by Bei Luo to get a glimpse. There were some places where, with his current cultivation, he would need to take risks to pass through. If Morongjua weren't in this group, Wang Lin would have immediately declined. But with Morongjua present, the situation was different. Although Morongjua was only at the early Ascendant stage, he had been able to detect Wang Lin from miles away, which surely meant he had some extraordinary abilities. Wang Lin smiled slightly and said, "That sounds good." Du Jian's face held a smile, but inwardly he sneered. If he didn't harbor suspicions or envy about Wang Lin reaching the Ascendant stage so quickly, that would be impossible. He clearly remembered that when he first saw Wang Lin, the latter was only a mid-stage infant metamorphosis cultivator. Yet now, in just 100 years, Wang Lin had reached the early Ascendant stage. From the way he looked, it didn't seem like he had just reached it. Rather, it seemed like he had stepped into the Ascendant stage a long time ago. This country bumpkin from the abandoned star has grown so quickly in cultivation. There must be a reason. And to think he escaped the life and death tribulation during his Ascendant stage. This is no simple matter. If he continues to develop like this, his cultivation will be even higher when he leaves in 400 years. At that point, his status in the purple lineage will rise rapidly. A malicious thought crossed his mind, but outwardly, Du Jian showed no signs of it. His smile remained warm, as if he were truly acting as an older brother. However, he was facing Wang Lin, the person who had lived through countless life and death battles on Vermilion Bird Star for hundreds of years, having endured what many people would experience in their entire lives. Wang Lin had long since cultivated a sharp mind and keen intelligence. The country bumpkin in Du Jian's mind couldn't be further from the truth. Du Jian's entire life, if compared to Wang Lin's, seemed insignificant. The five of them said nothing more and headed straight for the misty mountain sea. The mist swirled around, with some areas taking on an ethereal appearance of mountains and seas. It looked incredibly grand, yet had a kind of mesmerizing beauty that drew the heart. Zhao Yishuan's beautiful eyes occasionally glanced at Wang Lin, who walked ahead. There was something about this man that she couldn't quite figure out. In this land of demonic spirits, even those demon commanders were easy for her to see through. But in the past 100 years, there were only 2.5 people she couldn't understand. The figure of Wang Lin ahead was somewhat blurry through the mist, and Zhao Yishuan's gaze seemed to be blocked by the fog, making it even harder to see clearly. The first person she couldn't understand was the dragon of the Great Luo Sword sect, Qianlong. This person always surrounded himself with a mist. Whenever she tried to look more closely, the mist turned into a sharp sword, preventing her from probing further. As for the half-person she couldn't see through, that was Morongjua. Zhao Yishuan's gaze swept past Morongjua ahead. Sometimes, Morongjua seemed transparent and clear in her eyes, but at other times, he appeared as still as stagnant water. His changes made it difficult for her to discern his thoughts. The final person she couldn't see through was the suddenly appeared Wang Lin. To Zhao Yishuan, Wang Lin was even more mysterious. He had neither the mist-like Qianlong nor the changing nature of Morongjua. Instead, he seemed to have locked all his thoughts and energy within himself. He didn't need mist. He didn't need transformation. He simply closed the door to his soul. A strange light flashed in Zhao Xuan's eyes. Just then, Wang Lin, while walking, turned his head and casually glanced at her before quickly turning away. But that glance was like a sharp sword, piercing directly into Zhao Xuan's mind. Is this a warning? Zhao Xuan thought, intrigued. This Wang Lin is interesting. Even Qinlong from the Great Luo Sword sect only noticed me after I strengthened my divine abilities. As for Murongshua, he only detected my powers through a few subtle clues. But Wang Lin noticed something unusual the moment my mind shifted. A look of curiosity passed through Zhao Xuan's eyes, but it was quickly hidden. Wang Lin's gaze flickered as he walked, a cold smile tugging at the corner of his lips. These four are interesting. They all have their own schemes, and their divine abilities are not weak. But among them, the one who is most unusual should be that frail woman named Su. There's always a strange aura about her. The five of them were all incredibly fast, and soon they passed through the mist. Ahead of them, a deep ravine appeared on the ground. The rift in the earth was vast, about 10 zhang wide, with a length that stretched to 1,000 zhang, disappearing into the mist at the horizon. This chasm seemed like a sinister gaping mouth formed upon the ground, or perhaps, the result of a divine technique slash. The walls of the chasm were incredibly smooth, as if cut by a sharp blade. When Wang Lin's right hand brushed against it, a chilling cold immediately surged up his fingers, spreading into his body. As the five of them continued their descent, the surroundings gradually darkened. However, for cultivators, this darkness posed little issue. With their immortal power gathered in their eyes, they could clearly see everything. The deeper they went, the more branches and fissures appeared, forming numerous subdivisions resembling tree branches. Each fissure was like a cavern, its interior pitch black. Some were so deep that even with their enhanced vision, they couldn't peer into the depths. As the number of branches increased, Du Jian paused, floating in midair. Murongjua's expression remained cold. Upon seeing Du Jian stop, he furrowed his brow but said nothing. Zhao Xuan and Su Fei, after halting, looked around. The branching fissures resembled large mouths, waiting for prey. Everyone, there may be treasures hidden within these fissures. The deeper we go, the more of these cracks there will be. We're here for the treasures, so now it's up to each of you to show your skills. Du Jian finished speaking and moved toward one of the fissures. Morongjua hesitated briefly, then flew toward another crack. Why doesn't senior brother Wang take a look around? There might be something of value. Zhao Xuan smiled softly. Wang Lin shook his head, his gaze calm. He didn't search the surroundings but instead flew downward. Watching Wang Lin's retreating figure, Zhao Xuan's eyes flickered as she turned and reached for a nearby fissure, with the delicate woman following closely behind her. While flying, Wang Lin glanced back at the two women. A trace of suspicion appeared in his eyes. Why do I always feel something's off about these two? He pondered for a moment before turning his gaze downward. The massive chasm stretched infinitely deep, its bottom unseen. They had been flying for quite some time and still hadn't reached the end. The bottom of this tidal abyss is so deep that even Bei Luo's crystals can't see through it. However, it's known that below lies a vast corridor connecting to 5 other entrances, with only one exit. Wang Lin's eyes flashed. He stopped his descent and began to fly upward instead. The moment he moved, he immediately felt a heavy pressure coming from above. As I thought, this entrance only allows entry, not exit. If one attempts to force their way out, the resistance will grow stronger. After confirming his suspicion, Wang Lin paused and carefully examined his surroundings. The walls of the fissure were filled with darkness, and he only glanced at them briefly before withdrawing his gaze. This tidal abyss has been explored by many over the years. Even if there were treasures within these fissures, they are likely all gone now. Another 100 zhang downward lies a particularly difficult area I discovered using the crystal. Wang Lin hovered in midair, his expression calm. Soon, Morongjua flew down from above. He nodded slightly at Wang Lin and stood nearby. After a moment of silence, he suddenly spoke. Taoist Wang, does this place seem familiar to you? Wang Lin glanced at Morongjua and replied, 100 zhang below, there's an ancient tree growing on the stone wall. It's quite peculiar, Murong Taoist. You should be careful. Morongjua was taken aback, then nodded without saying anything further. After a short while, Zhao Xuan and Su Fei arrived, with Du Jian following closely behind. The 5 of them regrouped, clearly without any discoveries, and continued their descent. Wang Lin slowed his pace and fell behind the others. Morongjua hesitated for a moment and did the same. It was Du Jian who now moved ahead. The 100 zhang distance was quickly covered, and Wang Lin, ever vigilant, continued to gaze downwards. When he had checked with his crystal earlier, he had noticed an ancient tree growing there. While it wasn't particularly large or unusual, the moment Wang Lin used the crystal, he felt an overwhelming sense of danger. As they descended, his gaze fixed on the fissure below. He saw a dead tree, its trunk as thick as a person, with roots sprawling out. Most of the roots hovered in midair, while others dug deep into the chasm's wall. This tree was positioned cleverly, its hanging roots covering the fissure like a curtain. Such ancient trees were not unique along the path, as there were 7 or 8 in total. However, only this one made Wang Lin's heart stir with a sense of danger. A glimmer of purple light flickered within the fissure, resembling a magical artifact. Without needing to probe with divine sense, Wang Lin could see that the purple light came from a flying sword embedded in the wall. The flying sword was remarkably ancient, exuding a sharp aura that clearly indicated it was not an ordinary object. Du Jian's eyes immediately caught the purple light, and as his expression changed, he halted instinctively. He examined the flying sword closely and exclaimed, "Heavenly Destiny Sword." As soon as he spoke, even Zhao Xuan and Su Fei were taken aback, following Du Jian's gaze towards the gap. Wang Lin observed coldly and quickly noted that the seemingly fragile woman named Su Fei was not looking at the crack, but rather at the inconspicuous ancient tree above, with a barely perceptible look of coldness flashing in her eyes. Du Jian took a deep breath, gazing at the flying sword within the crack, and said in a solemn voice, "I recognize this sword. It is the sword of my master, Tian Yunzi. My master possesses a total of 7 swords, which were bestowed upon the 7 heavenly children of destiny as treasures. However, over countless years, 3 of the swords have gone missing along with their owners." At this point, he looked at Wang Lin, his face showing hesitation as he said, "Wang Shidi, you have heard of Sun Yun, right?" Wang Lin remained composed and nodded. Du Jian sighed lightly and said, "When Sun Yun was at the peak of his power, I was just an ordinary disciple of the Tian Yun sect, not yet accepted by my master into the Crimson lineage. But this sword remains etched in my memory. It should be the purple sword gifted to Sun Yun by my master after he became one of the 7 children of destiny." Wang Lin directed his gaze at the flying sword within the crack but remained silent. A glint of cold light flashed in Du Jian's eyes. He clasped his fist towards Murongxue, Zhao, and Su and said, "Brother Murong, Sister Zhao, Sister Su, this sword belongs to our Tian Yun sect and is a purple lineage weapon. Today, I seek a favor from the 3 of you. This sword should rightfully go to my brother Wang. He is a purple lineage disciple of our sect, and having this sword would return it to its rightful owner. Possessing this sword would elevate his status within the purple lineage." Du Jian's voice carried sincerity and emotion. Although Murongxue's eyes were cold, a strange expression crossed his face at this moment. He responded briefly, saying, "No problem." Zhao Xuan and Su Fei naturally had no objections either. Du Jian turned to Wang Lin, his eyes clear, and said, "Wang Shidi, my cultivation is lower than yours, but I joined the sect earlier, so please don't mind my calling you Shidi. This sword is yours, a purple lineage possession. Brother will not take it, nor will I allow anyone else to. It is yours. I only hope that this sword, when in your hands, will shine with the same brilliance as it did during Sun Nun's time." Wang Lin looked calmly at Du Jian, who showed no signs of abnormality, wearing a warm smile. "Thank you very much," Wang Lin replied, smiling in surprise. He regarded Du Jian as if seeing a child playing with a lowly trick, thinking to himself, "Did he really believe I was a 3-year-old? Du Jian, noticing Wang Lin's smile, felt a chill rise within him. He realized he had underestimated Wang Lin. After all, how could this bumpkin from a half-abandoned planet, who came to Tian Yunstar, possibly attract the attention of Tian Yunzi without having enviable luck? He had been here once before alone, but he hadn't entered through the main entrance. Instead, he had controlled a puppet infused with divine sense to come in. During that experience, the puppet had been attacked by an ancient tree, and the scene had frightened him enough that he didn't dare step into this misty mountain sea for a long time. After he found Murongxue and the others, he dared to step into this place again. Confident that Wang Lin wouldn't see through his thoughts, he dismissed the ancient tree as being too ordinary. Along the way, he had encountered several identical ancient trees, none of which had shown any signs of aggression. Wang Lin patted his storage pouch, and the crescent blade flashed out. With a throw, it soared forward in a rush of black light and swiftly entered the crack. The speed of the blade was too fast. In an instant, it had rolled up the flying sword and was making its way back to Wang Lin. Everything happened in a blink of an eye, almost as if the ancient tree above the crack had failed to react. The blade flew back, and the flying sword, radiating with crystal brilliance, landed in Wang Lin's hand. Holding the flying sword, Wang Lin's expression turned icy. With a squeeze, the sword shattered and scattered into pieces, and even the purple light vanished in a flash. This wasn't a heavenly destiny sword at all. It was clearly just a piece of ordinary iron, deliberately made to look like a treasure and tossed into the crack as a trap. Wang Lin looked at Du Jian, his gaze unchanging. Du Jian's face turned ugly as he stepped back a few paces, saying apologetically, "Wang Shitty, I must have misjudged this sword." A glint of cold light flashed in Wang Lin's eyes. He rarely took the initiative to provoke others, but if someone dared to trouble him, he would show no mercy. The cultivation world was a harsh place, and being overly weak meant facing death. With a step forward, Wang Lin reached out with his right hand, conjuring a gust of wind that rushed towards Du Jian. Du Jian's expression changed drastically as he quickly retreated, shouting, "Wang Lin, what do you mean by this?" But with his cultivation, it was extremely difficult to dodge in this rather narrow space. Even using teleportation, he couldn't avoid it under Wang Lin's mastery of the Tao concept fused with divine abilities. With a single swing, a violent gale suddenly surged. Although it wouldn't be able to kill Du Jian, who had the life-saving protection of Tian Yunzi's item, it still sent his body hurtling directly toward the ancient tree. In that instant, a sharp buzzing sound erupted from the tree. The tree collapsed, transforming into countless flying insects the size of fingers, which swarmed out like dark clouds. This was no ancient god, but rather a transformation created by the massive gathering of these flying insects.